Hey guys, welcome back to the Philco 50T-1404 television restoration project. The previous installment, I did some quick repairs and powered it up on basically all the original parts and was able to get some life out of it. We got high voltage, we got a glow on the CRT face. Since then, I did quite a bit of recapping. There were 20 or so bumblebee caps down below. I replaced them all in one evening. It was actually refreshingly easy to do, mainly because the way these are mounted, the type of tube sockets they use, aren't the type with eyelets where the lead is fed through and then wrapped around. They're more like posts where it's just wrapped around. So you just heat it up and they come right off. I didn't have to use J-hooks or anything like that. So that's all done, and I replaced 2 of the can electrolytics. I'll show you topside what I've done there. Along the way, I discovered some slight variations from all the service info, which doesn't really make this entirely fun to do. I was trying to go off as well as Telliade, which is fairly accurate, but right away I noticed something wasn't right. They show the first filter cap off the rectifier tube is 20 microfarad. It's not, it's 30. And the SAMs does show 30. So you see all these codes on here. This is a code 123, which supposedly this covers, and the SAMs as well. But anyways, and down here I got really confused with this resistor not being in the service info. And at any rate, I think I got it straightened out more or less. And I'm going to flip it down and show you what else is going on. Alright, topside, a few things. One, the high voltage box, I soaked in some evapor rust and got basically all the corrosion off. I'll be spray painting that. Some nice black paint soon. Did a little bit of cleaning on the chassis. Use CLR. Somebody had asked, why do you have a container of CLR on the workbench? That's what I clean chassis with. This does a fantastic job. It's not a heavily acidic thing. It's not goopy like navel jelly. It's a liquid that will remove light surface corrosion. Relatively benign in terms of its toxicity and whatnot. It's meant to be used to clean your bathroom and stuff like that, so it's not super toxic, or you don't get fumes or anything like that. There is some heavier corrosion in spots, so I'll probably use some navel jelly on that. Now, recapping. I replaced one cap up here. I thought it was a multi-section because it looked like this guy. This is a single section cap. So there's one little dinky cap up here. And this guy. This was the 475, the one I got the 2 500 volt caps for. This is the main filter right off of this. So there's a 30 microfarad goes directly to the 5U4. And there's a filter choke, and then the 47's on the other side of that. So that's your main power supply filter. We have 2 left. We have this guy, we have this guy. These 2, the negatives did not go to the chassis. They're mounted on these phenolic wafers. So I used Adaptacaps, which are these little circuit boards, and they mount directly on these mounting holes, and they insulate the cap from the chassis and give you nice pads to solder them to. Can't so readily use it on these guys because these are twist locks. I can if I drill a couple holes, which is probably what I'll end up doing. The nice thing about this is the whole pattern matches up with these, and it has the same symbols, and I can retain the original wiring and just mount this directly in place, and all the caps mount vertically in it, just like I did here. This is just a 2-section, but this can do up to 4. But what I'm thinking now, since I've done quite a bit of work, we should try another power up. So I'm going to rig everything up like I did before with the test CRT, and let's try another power up. And assuming it comes up when we get a raster again, and hopefully it fills up the screen better, I want to try feeding a signal in as well, and let's see if this tuner is doing anything. I also found a couple really neat things they did on this in terms of servicing. There's a jack on the back. It says voice coil. Yeah, that goes directly to this wire, and that's for alignment, doing the sound alignment. So you can do it with the set just like this, and you just plug your VTVM or whatnot into that jack for doing your sound peaking. And similarly, this jack is for aligning the video IF. It has key points that you use for the alignment procedure. So I've only seen that before on a couple Admiral chassis, where they give you jacks so that you don't have to go poking around underneath the chassis to do the alignment work. Nice. Okay, I have picture tube rigged up again, a little more securely this time around than last time. Set's powered up, and I am feeding a signal in. Okay, we've got a raster again. It looks like it's filling up the screen better too. That electromagnetic focus coil's probably going to push it off the screen a bit. We'll deal with it. So there's our brightness. Very scratchy volume control. And manipulating vertical and horizontal hold. So yeah, I think we do a full deflection in both directions. So I'm changing channels now. Quite as much of a change as I'd like as I'm changing channels. Hey, there's a touch tone. There's my touch tone. Adjusting fine tuning. I seem to have lost it. So let's see, let's do a crosshatch pattern. So there's brightness. This is contrast. Really not seeing really much of an indication of a. Is there kind of something in there? Change pattern and see if what's on the screen changes. Yeah, it does. Barely. Just barely. Now, I haven't checked the tubes yet. So, that's a very simple way to start here. So, we still have a few electrolytics to replace. But all paper caps have been replaced, and the main filter cap has been replaced. So I was thinking, we should probably able to eke through some kind of signal. We're getting audio reception, too. Not so fast. Switching to the horizontal adjustment procedure. I increased the signal into the set. I got maxed out on my RF generator, and it seems like I can almost get it to lock. So this is horizontal. It's starting to get closer and closer, but the control is at its maximum, and I'm still not locking. There are adjustments on the chassis. There are 3 trimmer caps and a coil. This has a little more elaborate horizontal setup than some other sets do. You can adjust all 3 of these to, or you need to get optimal lock-in. One of them is the oscillator. So I am going to try tweaking those and see what we can get. I'm not sure which one's which, but should be pretty. Oh, well, that's the first one I tried has got to be frequency, because as I adjust it, the number of these lines is changing. Let's see if I can adjust the lighting level so you guys can see that better. concerned it's a little washed out. So you watch that while I adjust this. Usually these are on the back of the set, which means once the chassis is in the cabinet, you really can't get to these. So this was fully clockwise before I did anything. Now I'm backing it off. It sure seems like that. It's horizontal lock and now it's rolling vertically, which we can... So there. So we really don't see anything, do we? Brightness down. Try some different patterns here. Oh yeah, there we go. Hey, hey, hey. So yeah, if I turn the contrast down a little, we lose it. Or if I touch anything, we lose it. We had it for a moment there. So I still want to go through and check the tubes because I think we're really losing some gain here. I can't even get it to lock anymore. Like I say, there's 3 trimmers and there's a coil. They all need to be adjusted optimally. One is the oscillator, one is the lock range, one is the horizontal drive, and one is the synchro guide lock control. There we go. The back, vertical. Yeah, it's really hard to get this stable. I broke out my trusty Hickok 600A tube tester and started with the 12AU7. It's the detector, AGC, and first video amp. And what do you know? It doesn't have any shorts, but check out. That should be in the green right now. So this is a dual triode. This is one section. The other section is slightly better, but not much. Still deep in the red. I kind of regret plucking all the other tubes out and removing the CRT because I suspect just replacing this one tube would make a significant difference. It's about as dead a tube as ever I've tested. Anyways, I'll keep going. And while I'm doing that, I also starting to throw down some naval jelly on the chassis. Most of it's really life surface corrosion. It's coming right off. I already did this whole area. Just blotting on a little bit and wiping it off. Here it's a little more severe for whatever reason around the 5U4. It's especially bad, and the transformer. I do plan on repainting this top plate at some point. Hopefully these nuts will come off. In fact, now that I think about it, well, here's my general course of action. I like to use Vaporust. It's fantastic stuff, but it's a little expensive. So when things are really rusty, I generally throw on some naval jelly and do 1 or 2 passes of that and then dunk it in Evapo-Rust if I can. That's what I did on the high voltage cage. So if I'm lucky, if I take these 2 nuts off, the top section will come off. I can soak it in Evapo-Rust and then paint it. I have some real nice engine enamel high temperature type black paint. That should work out really well for that. Anyways, back to the tubes. Got a lot more to go. Finished going through all the tubes and found a total of 6 that I'm going to replace. None as bad as a 12AU7, but some pretty marginal, including the 7F8 Lochtel tube. It's a local oscillator mixer. This was in the questionable zone. So, we'll replace all those, and I have really high hopes that that is going to make a dramatic improvement on the image. Unfortunately, though, I gotta work. So, tube hunting will have to wait till this evening. Meanwhile, I'm popping the transformer open so I can throw this in some Evapo-Rust while I do my day job. And a little bit of corrosion on the inside. Came off real easy, just took the nuts off and this popped right open. Time for another power-up with half a dozen tubes replaced. I think it's going to make a big difference. Let's find out. Oh yeah, it came right up. Nice. That's very out of focus. I don't know if we could do much about that. It's not supposed to have an electromagnetic focus coil with this type of CRT. So this is contrast. Before I had to have this fully cranked to get any semblance of an image. Now I can back it off quite a bit. And obviously the sync is quite stable. Geometry is pretty good too. Be a linearity control on the back somewheres. Why not? Well, this should be height. There we go. Some semblance of a circle. Well, this is really hard to turn. This guy. Okay, this is probably focus. That's not too horrible. So, yeah, very, very happy that this came up without too much trouble. Upside down. I still have 7 or 8 electrolytics to go and some resistors to double check. Well, we still have a bump power switch. Got to replace that. I'm working on a little bit more corrosion. I'm going to do some painting of the high voltage box and the cover. But of course I have to replace the picture tube. I might be able to go into my storage locker and hunt around and pluck one out of an unrestored set. But the early television convention is coming up. So I want to see what I can find there before I go installing one for now. It's just a few weeks away, so I figure I might as well wait. Meanwhile, I will also start working on the cabinet. So let's get as much work as we can done before that. So you never know with these sets. I've had sets that looked pristine that took a ton of work to get to this point. This set had a few quirks to start out with the AC interlock and a bad power switch, but otherwise just blew through and recapped it and replaced bad tubes, and there we go. No, it's not a perfect image, and we haven't really heard the sound yet, but it's very, very promising. Time for some cabinet work. Because of the moisture exposure, the plywood has delaminated a bit. Basically from here down to about here. From here down, it's solid. You can really see it on the outer edge here. So I want to shoot some glue into that and clamp it up. In order to do that, I also want to pop off these feet because I want to put a board across the back so I can make a nice sandwich and clamp this all up. I'm going to dilute some wood glue and jam it down between all the layers until it starts coming out down here. First we're going to do this, then we'll move on to these sections, which aren't as critical, but we definitely want this back to be very stable and strong and flat. I got to pop these feet off so I can clamp that board on. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I think these are just pounded in. I think these have nails that have grooves in them, and they're pounded in. These are the original feet, so I'll do what I can to pry them off. That gluing and clamping worked out great. This is very, very strong now. Those feet, those metal type feet, they are still sold. So I should be able to, even just at Home Depot, I can pick some up. So that's what I'm planning on replacing those with. I'll have to remove the two on the front. There is a little bit of veneer separation on either side. So I will do the same thing there, dilute glue and clamp it up. But for now, let's move on to the rest of the cabinet. After gluing and clamping the damage on the bottom of the cabinet, I proceeded to clean the wood surfaces with Gojo pumice-free hand cleaner, and now I'm working in some Oz cream polish. Also removed the screen cover and cleaned it with Novus #2, and I think it is looking one heck of a lot better now. Working on doing the grooves right now. This is really a dry, neglected finish, and then do a few passes. Alright, I think this is a good place to leave off. I'm going to continue on with all that stuff I mentioned, including replacing the last few electrolytics. I'm going to see if I can find a way to rig up that little test CRT without the field coil being mounted. Maybe I can bypass it with a power resistor or something. It'd be nice to get a really sharply focused image, but regardless, I'm really pleased with the progress on this project so far. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.